Wait. We'll start recording now. I'll tell you what. Some days are different than other days. Some days are shittier than other days. Other days are awesome. Today's not that bad. I mean, on a relative scale, today's pretty fucking good. I am tying dead animal to a hook and talking about it with the idea in mind that this would be part of a career or my earning a living. So I think relative to a lot of other days that I've had in my life and a lot of other lives out there, it's pretty fucking good. But relative to yesterday, yesterday kind of sucked. Anyways, not an easy day. Sometimes this shit just, it's like you're at the bottom of the hill and the shit just rolls down. And then you're like, all right, I got this, we're good with this, I got this one too. And then there's just bang, another turd, bang, another turd, bang, another turd. And you're like, it can't. I mean, I got these too, but we're done, right? I don't even need to ask that. That seems bang, another turd, bang, another turd. Shit, dude. This we're delving into vlog status with this one, but I'm putting the front of a swim bug on, and this is for an order for my boy Holden, friend of Ollie and Lucas. Got a little piece of GSP hanging out there. Someone's dog ate their swim bug. I'm not making that up. But with the articulation, something that in an effort to make this a little bit about tying, I like to do one wire coming down just a little bit, and I've done this in other videos, but something I'll just kind of highlight here and there. I got some dead deer tails. Yeah, that's right. Tails from deer hanging out in my boat right now. Went and picked up a bunch yesterday, which is cool. Opening day. No, check that. Saturday. Opening day of bow season. And in years past, I guess about this time of year, I don't know, things start slowing down over the summer. And if summer wasn't busy, which it hasn't been historically, early guiding career is very, you don't really have clients when you start guiding. So I think historically it was just scrambling and trying to, tie. And bow season, man, last year was sort of an eye-opener. I didn't realize they were saving any for me, and they ended up saving a couple hundred and then throwing them out because they were there for like over a week just baking. And then the guys just got busy during gun season, and I ended up, getting probably hundreds, but that number should be thousands. So onward and upward. That's the idea, right? We try to figure out. I didn't even talk about that. So going one a little lower on the bend, and then the second one I take up a little higher, and you're basically connecting them at two different points so that both of them individually would have to move in order to get things super wonky. and I'm using 40-pound stainless steel leader. I could probably be using not that, but I'll tell you what, doesn't fucking break. Oh man, the Shankopotamus video. We're just gonna keep getting in front of this. Shankopotamus video. I have tried to record that more than once, maybe 3 or 4 times. And something's always, I feel like one of them I was just a nightmare. And probably the other one I was a nightmare. And then another one, the mic wasn't working. Audio has been a moving target, as people would say in the consulting world. That's another way of saying I haven't been able to fucking figure this thing out and keep trying ideas that don't work. So it's a moving target insofar as I am aiming at the wrong thing or my shot is just bad. But it ended up being that the mic that I'm recording on wasn't the lead mic, and that my desktop, my computer was actually picking up noise, and I ended up going with the dubbing spinner. I ended up going with the phone audio. I'll tell you, I'll sit here and I'll tell you. I did some like very, very modest reorganizing, and now can't find it. So what do we do? I think we should find it. Tackle pliers will work in a pinch. Oh dear. Oh dear. Things are going south. We're going to find the dubbing spinner. It's not a big room. You'd think there'd be a limit. It's right where it should be in my little foam tool caddy. That's not true. It should be attached to with the female Velcro to my male table Velcro. All right. This is Baitfish Emulator. Pretty sure that's what it is. Cutting off about an inch and a half, and then cutting it in half before I put it on the spinner, and clearly not super concerned about. Basically, I want something dense, but also not crazy air trappy or crazy dense. So I found that Strong Fuzzy's it's not bad. It just I don't know, it feels like there's an inflection point where I can kind of point being, a lot of different materials and ways you tie material, like doing some reverse ties of um, strung fuzzy, doing some reverse ties of the RD, the Renzetti tying division. Baitfish sculpting, the flash blend, doing, SF, doing some bigger reverse ties of EP. It's just synthetic with a little bit of crinkle is kind of the starting point, and then from there you get to go in whatever direction you'd like. What ends up happening, or what ends up, and I think this is more often the case in tying and fishing, is that your own fishing, so your ability to cast and retrieve, um, combined with environmental factors like speed of water, depth of water, your line, the variation between your current speed where you are in a boat or wading and bank speed or structure speed where you're fishing, or if you're in the bank and you're fishing the current. So all those things end up, I think, coming into play a little more. They become more important than the fly itself to a certain extent. Now you want to do everything you can while tying to achieve whatever it is that you're looking for. But again, that's where there's that inflection point of like, there's also just like, have I seen meaningful differences, between using a support? This is intentionally going to be covered with rabbit and mallard flanks, so I don't necessarily, I'll put it this way. I have tried things that don't work, and then the sort of collection category of synthetics with a little crinkle, and I like flash too. I like that category. But to say it needs to be done with this or that, I feel like is inappropriate / wrong. Right, we are a little sloppy, but let's do sloppy. I'm going to be a little more forgiving with my own tying because I don't fucking need it today. The perfectionism with me, that is. To the extent you are able in your own tying, I would encourage an eye toward perfectionism. To the extent your day would either be not helped or hurt, it's not fun to tie. It's not fun to spend your time doing something that's like, I can't do it. This is too hard. I'm all for getting better, but some days it's like, let's just fucking. And here's the thing with dubbing loops, and like, I'm tying this for an order. It's gonna be fucking, gonna be dope. After a while of doing that, I've said it before, but a lot of this is just time. It's time at the vise. It's time on the water, watching what you do with your time at the vise translate to what's happening in the water. You can sort of, if you put too much material in a dubbing loop and you realize that, then you can get, you can manipulate how dense you're spinning it. You can manipulate how dense your turns are. that's where some of this is a science, but a lot of this does become feel and art and all that other non-sciencey stuff. But it, as long as you're starting with the right fundamentals, it's going to be okay. And then, yeah, you look at what's the overriding factors here. And for the swim bug, generally speaking, it's your deer hair. How dense are you making it? How much hair are you leaving on? Is the collar too big? So these other things matter, or they start to matter a little less when you look at the conductor of the train. I like to cut any of my material underneath that might foul up on this, and with the longer synthetics like the articulated Creelex, a lot of the game changers, I like to do this near the hooks because it's not like you're putting less material underneath it. What you're doing is handicapping it, and I'll trim this on the water too. You're sort of handicapping it to say that I already know that this stuff is going to kind of bunch up because there's a piece of metal right where it's all trying to flow. And then, generally speaking, when I want something keeling properly, and that's part of the swim bug, is it does a bunch of stuff, but it always, when you start pulling it straight, it's always going to true up. I don't want more material. I don't want more friction, more water resistance, air resistance on the bottom. I want that to be heavier. I want that to have a smoother surface. I want that to be sinkier. So that's what that little thing is. We're going to do some flanks. My buddy Jack just informed me that he's has 9 ducks. His friend Christian, who does some phenomenal landscaping work, and catches some hogfish too, just loves killing those quackers, and gave a bunch of jack last year, and he's probably sitting there. I'm sure when he's on the river, you'll see groups of mallards just doing their thing, and he's probably chucking them snails and trying to get them all fat. And I mean, to say that he's sick in the head is probably an understatement. I think that he actually will try to befriend, because ducks are, what is that term? Like if a duck is born, oh God, I didn't close my tear mender. If a duck is born and there is no mother, it will, and you're next to it, or like a goat is next to it, or a rock is next to it, it thinks that thing is its mom. And so I think what Christian does is he convinces these ducks somehow that like he is the maternal figure in their life, and then kills them. But I get their feathers, so I'm who's the judge, right? I certainly can't judge. I take their feathers or, deer tail and tie it to metal and then try to convince a fish that, a fish, its livelihood, everything about its life is geared with the idea of reproducing. Yeah, sure, but like on a day-to-day basis, it's input output. What I do is not only myself, the real twisted part is that I try to get other people to trick a fish into believing that something not edible is in fact edible. All right, this is where these things can end up taking a little bit more time. And it's less about the time it takes to tie and more about the different chunks of hair I keep grabbing. And oh, yeah, I think we're going to do a little yellow and peach. And so one of the nice parts about the swim bug is that in tying it, as many complications and little hiccups as there might be along the way, you're not really using big mallard flanks. I do like them to be somewhat uniform, but they aren't long. In fact, some of them, especially in the midsection, are pretty short. And then your hair is also not the super long stuff that you need for a lot of other hair bugs. And part of it is that you use more of the head and the head design to promote your keeling, your right sizing, versus the collar itself. And the drunk, for example, there's different dynamics at play. That thing wants to, because of the shape of the head, it wants to roll if you strip too much. It depends on how much rabbit you're putting on. Depends on like where your head starts and ends, and if it's more of just the initial dig. So a lot of my bugs or my drunks are, they have a really short nose. And I think some of the ones you'll see, and I started screwing around with that because of, man, my ability to talk is it's probably not unique, but yeah, I started seeing that snubbier, or I started appreciating what the snubbier nose might do after tying it, because, or continuing to experiment, because I was seeing some stuff that Tommy was posting of, not these giant spoonbills, and listening to one of these podcasts. So many of these pieces are stuck into my head. One of them is, um, it matters very little what is behind. Just going to let whatever needs to fall off. Yep, we're just going to go through all of it, come out. It matters very little what is behind that initial. We'll do a little stack here. The initial wedge. So getting close to the eye and having that thing be as wide as it should, which just takes time to understand what that is. Leave a little more on, trim it when you're on the water. Don't totally bake it in epoxy or else you won't be able to adjust it. But it matters very little what's behind the head or what's behind that edge. And so, again, based on what size you're tying and all that, you really don't need a super long head. So when you go shorter on that, when you go snubbier, you simply have less, there's less stuff that is buoyant, even if you pack it in. And so you need a bigger collar for the stability and for the not rolling over and for the staying upright and some float recovery if you're going super snubby on the nose. If not, and you're tying in, a different style of head or whatever you want to say, a different collar to head ratio, then you can get away with a different configuration. But for the swim bug, it is head focused. I listened to this song. Give me that. I listened to this song, Becky by Plies, yesterday. I was thinking of using that for idiot for a post about having bucktail. Just barely makes sense. I was feeling a little slippy. So as much as I like the don't take the easy road, and realistically, in fly tying, most of the times you don't take the easy road. That's actually, unless you find something that we don't, I don't know, that no one else has found, which of course it's always good to explore, like thinking that there's shortcuts for everything. In my experience, I have found generally yields having to redo stuff because there's no, sometimes there's no shortcut. Deer hair, I feel like, is definitely one where, I could have made that other spin work, but then I'm going to be all, I'll be carving and just like all unhappy with it. And then I'd end up redoing the whole thing. And so you can stack this. What I'm doing is it's sort of like tying a drunk where I'm doing a spin and I'm packing it, and you hear, I didn't know what the difference or if there was a difference between stacking, packing, spinning. Spinning is just putting the deer hair around the hook. Stacking is putting some on the bottom. We'll stack for the last tie-in for the face. Stacking is putting a stack That's improper. Stacking is putting material on the bottom, and then this lens, and then putting some on the top, and then you can press it down and start putting more in to increase that density. You do get farther away from the hook shank, but and in deer hair or with deer hair tying, a lot of this is it's manipulation of the thread and what would you say? Some degree of expectation, or like, I know what the deer hair is going to do. So you start tying on with the idea in mind that, okay, it's about to do this or that, and that allows you to, you know what I'm going to do? Just mash that. It's wanting to creep around, so I'm just going to let it. I have the theme from Puppy Dog Pals stuck into my head so bad. So there's really, if you're looking at tying with deer hair, or you've tried and you're just like, man, that was a nightmare. Maybe it's for other people. It's not for me. I can assure you that no one, all right, I can't assure, maybe someone this has happened to, but I am confident that no one who's tying with deer hair, possibly in the history of tying, has ever started wrapping thread around deer hair and said, okay, this is easy. Not only is this easy, but it makes sense. And also, whoa, I'm naturally good at this. It takes time. It takes a lot of bad flies. I do think that the interest in it is for some people, just like fly tying, and it's not for others. But to not do it because it seems hard would be kind of silly. And in fairness to what I was saying earlier, if today were a day for me to be trying something new that might be frustrated, unless I was like really going for challenging myself or some existential, I'm not doing it today. And guess what? I got to go. I don't have to. I'm going to go get my daughter early from kindergarten. So this was a weird one. Enjoy yourself. And yeah, if you feel like partying with something different, try deer hair.